everybody. I am here with the Patrick Doody from Chicago Fire.
How are we doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Very good. So it's been a while since I've seen you.
I know. It was good catching up on the last 10 years of our life.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost.
So we played together back in that must have been 2012?
Jesus. Yeah, between
You're probably your freshman
year of college. Yeah.
Summer.
Yeah. Right. I think I was going into my sophomore year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, usually what I do with these is I pretty much, I'd like to know, what I'd like to do is ask, how did you start getting into soccer?
Oh, man, I think kind of like, well, it's probably different now. I mean, nowadays, I feel like children have to pick what sport they want to play right away.
Yeah.
I started playing probably when I was 4 years old, for some local community team. The classic, like, you have the green jersey and then the yellow jersey.
You play in a gym,
yeah,
church or something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going from that to basketball to baseball to whatever.
As a kid, you just do whatever your parents kind of like
No doubt.
put you in. Yeah. Okay.
But what's cool is I loved it. I loved sports, and then I'd say over time, as I kept kind of stopped playing one sport, soccer was kind of the one where no matter what, I was like, well, I'm going to keep playing soccer.
Gotcha.
You know, maybe I'll stop playing tennis for now, but I'm going to soccer staying.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that went.
Gotcha. So you played tennis when you were a kid as well?
I played it all, man.
Yeah, baseball, tennis.
Tennis is
probably
more seasonal. Baseball, basketball, I loved.
Cool.
Those were travel sports for me.
Cool.
Played high school hoops a little bit. That was the last one to go down before soccer.
High school basketball.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, the Fire Academy wasn't too pumped about that. That's
So-
why I passed them.
Yeah, so Fire Academy, I think when we were younger, Fire Academy was something that kind of just was getting started.
Mm-hmm.
It was fairly new for us, and we were probably like 12, 13 years old when it first started. So how did you get into that? And did you play club soccer before that?
Yeah, I was doing club soccer, travel soccer, whatever you want to call it. And then the academy started.
Gotcha.
Was sweeping the nation, and everyone was like, what is this? Chicago Fire got an academy, Magic had an academy.
Sure.
A few of the bigger clubs in Illinois got an academy.
Right.
And I think I was playing for the Fire club team at the time.
Okay, so like Fire Juniors.
Fire Juniors,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And tried out for academy, and made that team and started rolling with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. So, Fire Academy, obviously that dynamic, or that environment rather, was super competitive as a kid.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, they pretty much brought all the best kids together and put them into one group there.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, I guess I didn't do the first year academy because the hoops.
Gotcha.
But by the time I started academy, I think I was a sophomore in high school. That was like the second or third year of academy. Looking back on it, it definitely was the cream of the crop in terms of
Talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you don't really notice at the time. You're just going to play.
Yeah.
But when I look back at where a lot of those guys ended up,
you realize, like,
yeah,
those are good players. Like, all those kids ended up somewhere.
It was a solid group. There was a number of D1 players,
Sure.
A good amount of professionals. So yeah, I think now being more removed from it, I cherish it a bit more, like
Sure.
everything.
Right.
But yeah, Fire Academy, it was super competitive. But they did a lot to get players to the next level, which, at the end of the day, that was their job, and they did a good job with that.
That's a good point there. So, like, for parents that are watching, what do you think they did differently that, like, really helped your group of kids?
My parents?
The environment there, the coaches there with that group.
Yeah.
What were they doing differently that?
They just decided to take what travel soccer was and they just took it to a new level.
Okay.
I mean, that's really the best way I can put it.
Okay.
When academy came around, especially with the Fire, the point of the academy was you want to get a kid when he's 16, and then hopefully by the time he's 20 or whatever, he's potentially getting ready to sign with the first team.
Sure.
So that was the mindset. I think sometimes parents can get a little too wrapped into that.
Okay. I would agree with you.
Especially in the teenage years, which is why I'm really grateful that my parents kind of let me do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because you can't force a kid to love soccer or any sport.
See, I feel that is like for the guys that I talk to that make it big, right? It seems like it's a reoccurring thing that the parents were hands off in a way, but like extremely, extremely supportive.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm asserting that's what you're talking about, right?
100%. I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice doing that. I mean, you have to miss dances and blah, 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 which...
Sure. Family stuff, birthdays.
Yeah, family stuff,
sure.
Birthdays, and again, it's you just can't, the kid has to love it.
Right.
The parents can't because they're not the ones doing it. They're the ones driving, I guess, up till the kid turns 16 or whatever. But I saw too many times where I would talk to my parents about it as a 16, 17-year-old. I didn't know anything, but I was like, man, I just feel bad for that kid because he doesn't want to be here. Yeah. But his parents are under the impression that if he keeps doing this, he's going to end up D1 and get their scholarship and blah blah. And it just, maybe it'll work out that way a few times. Right. But what are you doing it then for? Yeah. Exactly. The kid, and you should know. Yeah. You should know probably. Even you probably will know before. I remember. I felt like after 8th grade, that's kind of when, good amount of guys and girls would start to drop off. Yes. Like, I don't love it anymore. Yeah. And then after that next couple of years, it's like, I don't love it anymore. Right. But that's where the friction comes, because that's where I think the parents are really starting to push. Right. So as great as the academy is, the perfect system is when you have the academy wanting that out of the player, and the player wants it for himself. Right. Not necessarily the parents want it for the player. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of parents try to control that environment and try to, like you said, push a kid down a path that he doesn't want to go down. Yeah, and hey, their parents are supposed to push you. I mean, don't get me wrong. No, exactly. Yeah. It's not like, it's not like I was mailing it in, or that's not, definitely not what I meant by that. But sure, they're pushing you to do well with what you want to do. Right. They're pushing you to, if you love this, keep going for it. Right. But knowing that fine line where you're the one playing. Yeah. You're the one driving an hour and a half after high school to go to training or whatever. Exactly. So yeah, my parents and my group of friends, we had a pretty I think unique group of parents that had our backs, kind of let us make our decisions. That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, that's unique. Yeah. It's definitely unique because it's not always that way. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure. Well, let's talk. So you're playing for academy, right? You're playing in high school. Yeah. So thankful for that. Yeah. Yeah. How was that experience? It was the best. Yeah. Go Niqua. Yeah, I do feel bad for the boys today, and I get it with where the direction of the game is going. High school versus club type thing? Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And that's the way it is, and there's a lot of people higher up than me that I think know what they're doing. Yeah. But I was lucky enough where I got to do both, and it was the best. Yeah. I got to play at a big high school in Naperville, and then also play for the academy. I always think about that nowadays. There's probably some kid rolling through Niqua that is just some stud, and he's probably getting college offers and all this stuff, and none of his classmates know about it. Sure. Which kind of stinks. Yeah. Where me, I got to play for a state championship each year with my buddies, playing in front of our classmates. School. Yeah. And then, when that's done, then playing for the academy. So I think I had best of both worlds. Plus, I had, not to mention, my coach at Niqua was for 2 years was a guy named Tony Keys. So
okay.
He's pretty well respected.
There you go.
But yeah,
well, you're lucky.
I'm super lucky.
Because that's a debate.
Yeah.
As you know, that's one of the main debates for high school kids, like high school or club. And you know, maybe you don't have a program. Maybe there's a high school out there that doesn't have a program that's as good as Nicola or something like that. The parents are really torn because the kid,
of course,
wants to be in the best environment possible to improve his development, but he doesn't have that high school
that can do it for him.
To get him there. So I think there's pros and cons to both.
There is. I mean, 100%. And I think what's unique is like my parents' generation. I'm not sure how old your parents are. I'm assuming fairly close.
Sure.
The thought of not playing high school sports is like foreign to them because that's what they did.
Sure.
They didn't have club sports.
That's a good point.
You played for your high school and that was it. So I think there's this it's just a tug where it's like, well, of course you're going to play for your high school, but no, because if you're good enough, you're not going to play for your high school anymore.
Right.
And that really sucks.
Yeah.
And especially for the guy because you're going to be getting told a lot of stuff. And
of course,
to be a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old freshman in high school to have to make that decision, that's tough. I feel bad for those guys because just because you choose to play for academy and not your high school doesn't mean you're going to end up playing in college.
Exactly.
But that's the pitch you'll get.
Yeah. And I know this from not my personal experience, but I've seen other players where they don't choose high school, and they kind of get like shunned by like high school coaches or people, and they're like, "Oh, you think you're too good for high school?" You know, and they're just trying to make the best decision possible. You know, so that like you said, I feel bad for some of those guys.
Yeah, it's kind of a crummy situation, and I shouldn't speak too much on it because I didn't have to make the decision.
Right.
But for those kids, you know, I guess just trust your gut. But it really, it doesn't matter. I mean, because
everyone's different.
I got to do both, and it worked out. But I look back, I even think now, if I was put in that spot, what would I do? But it's too hard to look at it that way. Because I was able to do both, and it was fine. So.
Yeah, I think the answer there is try to keep it simple, trust your gut, and usually that tends to pan out.
Yeah, and hopefully you have someone on the club side that's honest with you, and someone on the high school side that's honest with you.
That's huge.
Because at the end of the day, that's their job too.
Yeah.
Because you as the teenager, you shouldn't have to be thinking, all right, if I do this right now, my college will be determined. That's not fair or realistic.
Sure.
So that's where I think some weight needs to be put on those two sides as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that being said, how did you get picked up with Indiana?
Oh, IU.
Yeah,
I love it.
So you must have had quite a few offers from colleges here and there, I mean, right?
Yeah, they started coming in. That was a fun time of my life. Looking back on it, me and my parents had fun talking to the different schools, visiting.
Yep.
You definitely got to feel pretty cool for that day.
Sure.
Going to a big university. The IU story is great. I love telling people about this because I actually went to an IU soccer camp when I was a freshman in high school.
Gotcha.
And after the camp, they give you a little review on how you did and whatnot. And one of the coaches said, hey,
you're hired.
No, the complete opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, hey, thanks for coming to camp. You have a really good right foot. First of all, I have a terrible right foot. I'm as left-footed as it comes. And they're like, we'd love to help talk to some D3 schools for you. And I was like, whoa.
That was like smack in the face, probably.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So that's something I always remember, thinking about that. So anyways, whatever, put that aside. At the time, I'm like, well, IU's definitely out. Because every kid in the Midwest, especially, IU's kind of the dream, if you will.
Yeah.
So that dream for that moment was put to the side. fast forward to like a year and a half, I visited a few, a decent amount of schools, and I was at Wisconsin visiting a coach by the name of Todd Yeagley, and like instantly I just was like, man, this guy, we're just hitting it off.
Sure.
Wisconsin didn't have a great track record in terms of soccer success.
Right.
But Todd had just gotten there. He came from IU, was an IU legend, played in the MLS. We're hitting it off. It's great. I'm just loving the campus, obviously, because it's
good
massive.
Okay.
Yeah. And halfway through my recruiting visit, the IU staff gets released, and Todd's phone is just off the hook the whole time. I'm like, oh no, like is he gonna be leaving us? And sure enough, over time, Todd got the IU job.
No way.
I'm pretty sure this is all public. Hopefully it is. Regardless, though, Todd Yeagley ended up.
We can double check that.
Yeah, Todd Yeagley ended up at IU. So I was kind of torn because I'm like, dang, I really felt something good with this guy. And then, lo and behold, he ended up calling me saying, hey, I'd love for you to visit IU. Wow. And I was like, holy smokes. Visited IU, and that was it.
That is brilliant.
So it's kind of cool when you think about my first experience with IU, which was pretty negative, to then have a coach, then to get that job, want me to play there, and then I had a pretty good run with IU too. So it's cool to reflect on that.
It's amazing you said that. I was just talking to someone about a similar situation. It was a fellow that was playing in the USL, and he was bopping around the USL, but he had a really good relationship with this one coach. Okay. It was the same story. And the coach goes on, finds a nice little job, and brings his kid on board. Yeah. And I think that happens a lot.
Oh, totally.
And whether you're in high school or playing club, and you have this coach, a lot of kids get discouraged, or even parents get discouraged if the coach and the kid aren't a good fit.
Yeah, and it's funny, all this stuff comes back to what you learn as like a little tiny kid. It's, you got to be nice to people.
Right.
Be respectful.
Right.
And it's just weird how it just applies to so many different situations.
Sure.
Where I guarantee you that your buddy that was playing in the USL could have been getting wronged by a lot of people.
Sure.
And the second you do that, the second people can start talking. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. If someone hears something bad about you, especially in the world of sports, you can be burned.
Sure.
So it's always something to keep in mind. Is even if something doesn't go your way, how you react to it, because it can come back to
3-4 years later
and end up paying off.
Yeah.
Because you handled something correctly in a tough bout or whatever it is.
Okay.
So I love stories like that, like your buddy, because it happens a lot.
It's a karma story.
Yeah, it is kind of a karma story. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about some IU highlights. So I got the opportunity. I was at Notre Dame when you guys beat them in the semis. It was probably your junior year or sophomore year. Sophomore year.
The year we won the championship.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
that was a good day.
That was a great game.
Yeah,
that was fun to watch.
Yeah, that's up there with one of the top games.
Yeah, I must say I was rooting for Notre Dame.
That's fair.
My buddy Bobby Novak was.
Bob was on
there. Yeah.
I might have been guarding Bob.
I think you might have been. Yeah, you might have been. So
I wasn't enjoying that.
No.
He's damn good.
So highlights of IU. How was that experience?
IU was
just
great.
In general.
It's just the best. It's one of the best schools. One of the most unreal campuses. And then you throw all that together and get to play soccer on top for at the time 7-time national championship program. Just the legacy. I always tell people that IU soccer is, UCLA and Duke of basketball. It's Alabama football.
Sure.
It is. That's what it is.
Right.
So getting to wear that jersey was super special. I entered as a left mid. I remember I played left mid my freshman year.
Okay.
Which, it's funny, I was a left mid my whole life, and now I don't even remember the last time I did it.
That's funny, because when we played, I was like, I remember you were in the midfield.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
so you started off left mid then.
Started off a left mid, and they had told me when I committed there, they're like, hey, we have a really good senior left back who ended up being an All-American, Chris Essridge.
Okay.
Great player. But they're like, once he graduates, that spot could be up for grabs. And funny enough, my academy coach, Larry Sunderland, always had told me, he's like, hey, if you ever want to make it professional, you will be a left back.
Wow.
And I always thought he was nuts. I'm like, but that was at the times where I was, only left mid, only left winger.
Sure.
So then for him to say that, and then fast forward a couple of years to have Todd Yeagley say that, all right, if they're both saying this, then they probably know.
There's probably something to this.
So I made the transition to left back. Had ups and downs throughout learning the new position, but sophomore year we won a national championship. Had some big plays in that postseason, which was pretty cool. Junior year was probably the biggest disappointment because we returned a bunch of starters from our national championship team. Just had a weird year. But we still won the Big Ten tournament, which was cool.
Cool.
And then my senior year was really special. I was captain of the team.
Wow.
Which, again, was kind of like an emotional little part because.
That's big.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
4 years earlier, you're getting told that you'd be a good D3 player, to then
Now you're captain.
Now you're captain of IU.
See, that's a success story, right?
Yeah.
For all the kids out there, you just look at that.
Which
That's cool.
Which again, it was. And I'm happy too because it wasn't because of the type of player I was. I think it was because of the type of teammate I was.
Okay.
Which that meant a lot more to me.
Sure.
So yeah, that was really significant that I was able to do that, and we had a really good year. I think we got the number 3 seed in the tournament. Unfortunately, we lost in the first round. That was the highest seed we had been since I was at IU. But yeah, it was cool. National championship, no matter what.
Yeah.
You can walk away and you put your mark on it. So that's good.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: at what point at IU did you start sensing that, hey, I can take this to the MLS?
After my freshman year, I talked to my coach. This was after the spring of my freshman year, after I played left back for a few months.
Okay.
Didn't have the starting spot locked up by any means, but I felt good about where I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was still learning the position. And I remember I just asked him, I said, hey, you've been in the league. Coach Mays has been in the league. What do you think my chances are of potentially making it to that next level? And he's a super honest guy, so I wasn't worried about him BSing me.
Sure.
I knew whatever he was going to say was going to be, authentic, and it was. He said, listen, I think there's a lot of qualities in your game that definitely translate to the next level. I think you have a lot of work to do. It's definitely not a sure thing where, with some guys, if it's a sure thing. Like Eric Zavaleta, you watch him play like a half of college soccer, you're like, all right, well, that guy's going to be in the MLS.
Right.
It wasn't a sure thing for me, but the fact that he even said he saw that was enough for me.
Yeah.
So at that point, I geared up on classes because I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, and this is where the parents come back into play. They're like, all right, hey, that's great, but the MLS draft is in December or January.
Wow.
So I knew I wasn't probably going to be leaving college early.
Gotcha.
I knew that I could still possibly sign homegrown, but even then that would be probably right after my fall season, my senior year.
Okay.
So if my mindset was to be entering, a professional level by January of my senior year, I wanted to be leaving with my degree.
You got to be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be ready for that.
Because there's a lot of guys out there that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but there's a lot going on in college, and I wanted to make it a point to try to get that done, and then I knew that by me gearing up on the courses, and getting the hours done, it was going to be correlating with my goals of making it, or playing wise.
Right.
So I knew that if I was taking 18 hours one semester, it wasn't just for nothing.
Yeah.
It was because, hey man, there's an end goal to this.
Sure.
You want to, whether it happens or not,
yeah,
it better damn be done if it does happen.
Right.
So that kind of at least helped me.
Well, you were mentally prepared.
I was mentally prepared in a way,
you could say, and you're referencing the school part of it, but in general, you're mentally preparing to go play professionally, which that's important to start doing that early.
Yeah, in a way.
If you're going to make it happen.
I mean, it makes and it's not to lesser the school part of it.
Sure.
It was more just, I was committing to the idea of me leaving college early to play soccer.
Exactly.
So therefore, if that was what I was committing to, I wanted to make sure I had the degree to come with me.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of the way I was putting it and game planning it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I do a lot of coaching and training and mentoring. And a big thing that I stress with the youth players that I'm involved with is being mentally strong.
Yeah. Pretty important.
And yeah, so I'd like to hear your take on, let's say, the things that are mentally demanding in college and at the pro level. What did you wish you knew as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old player?
The impact of your coach is almost unmatched to how important that is on your mental strength and your mental being in general.
Mm-hmm.
As a 13-year-old, when I was 12 or 13, that was the first time I lost confidence as a soccer player. And it was 100% because of my coach.
Gotcha.
That's fine. It is the way it is. But my coach got in my brain, and it messed with me.
Right.
Probably 2 years.
Okay.
And eventually I did make a switch to a different team, which I'm not advising that. The answer is not to be unhappy and just run.
Yeah,
it's not the way you figure things out.
Okay.
And I wrote it out with that club for a while. Then eventually a group of us, my buddies, we all decided to go to a different team, and it was like new era.
Yeah.
And then the coach is so significant in your life, and especially as you get older. Like in college, your coach kind of determines your college experience.
Yeah.
And then as a professional, he determines your job.
Right.
He determines how much money you make.
Yeah.
And as a soccer player, you have 3 hours a day that's your job. You a 3-hour practice or whatever it is.
Yeah.
10 to 2.
Yeah.
9 to 2. And if you're not sharp up here because you're worried about what that guy or that girl is thinking,
yeah.
That's a big, big weight. That's a big effect.
Okay.
So it's almost like I think sometimes people know that, but it's still hard to get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're struggling. Let me get this straight. I'm hearing that you struggle with confidence a little bit at 12, 13 years old because of the coach.
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle that and then kind of like move yourself out of that situation?
I had good. I think when I eventually got away from the situation, it did help.
Yeah.
Because when you're at that age, you're kind of still so innocent, and only takes a few good things to like be back to normal.
Right.
So I think that was mainly that, and then I started. I started becoming pretty good. I mean, that helps too.
Progress. Sure.
I mean, becoming a better player will certainly help with your confidence.
Right.
And I was kind of growing up. I was certainly more athletic than almost everyone, which helped a ton.
Okay.
Because being athletic makes soccer a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was left-footed, so it's like little things that I was kind of, I guess, catching breaks on, but it was making me unique to the other players, which gives you confidence. And then, yeah, from there on, I was pretty solid for a long time. IU, of course, there were ups and downs, but that was more just because it meant so much to me.
Right.
As a 12 and 13-year-old, it didn't mean much to you. You just want to play.
Yeah.
You don't really. It's not like it matters that much.
Sure.
But in college, it's like, dude, this is a full-time job. I want to
do good here.
Yeah, I want to be good.
Yeah.
Not just because I want to be on the field. I just want to.
I'm fully invested now.
Yeah, exactly.
So at this age, you know what fully invested really means.
Totally.
And you want to make the best of it.
Yeah, and there's a serious grind. There's a serious mental attitude you need to have, and I think a lot of college athletes will tell you to get through all the demands of that.
Right.
And more so than the guy that plays every game, it's the guy that doesn't play once.
Right.
In 4 years.
Sure.
That's mental strength.
Yeah.
Because that dude's doing just as much work as everyone else, and he doesn't even get to show. He doesn't get to show it.
That's a great point.
So the mental game, it's so important that we could probably talk about it for months.
Sure.
But in terms of biggest impact, I think at the college and professional level is your coach. I'd say now looking back on my answers, I think maybe more important in the adolescent years is your parents.
Right.
I think that's probably more accurate. Because your coach when you're 12 or 13, like, whatever. The guy, man or woman, is going to play you or not play you, but
Yeah.
it's like it's 12-year-old soccer.
Right.
Um,
So let me ask you this: you get signed with the Fire.
yeah.
When did this happen? When exactly did that happen?
This happened so my senior year, we lost the first round of Xavier
Right.
in I don't know, November something. And then there was just this gross month where I just didn't know what was going to happen. So I had a good senior year. So I was like, all right, well, trying to figure out what agent I'm going to have. Combine lists are coming out, but since I'm a homegrown, I'm technically still locked from that. So I'm still under the Fire's ownership.
Sure.
Signed with an agent, great dude, Corey Gibbs. He's pretty confident that the Fire are going to sign me. My coach, Todd Yeager's pretty confident that the Fire are going to sign me. Everyone's pretty confident that they're going to sign me. Me, I don't trust. Until I hear, until I sign something, I'm not believing anything. And then sure enough, I get the call early December that the Fire are going to sign me homegrown. By far one of the coolest, and I was at IU when this happened. It was so cool. So I knew instantly that no matter what, I was signed with a team. This meant I would not be going to the combine, which
Takes pressure off?
Takes pressure off for sure.
Okay.
Because a lot of guys go to the combine and they don't get signed.
Right.
So that worry was out of the way.
Right.
I still think always, who knows if you go to the combine and light it up, what could have happened.
Right.
But I don't. I got to be a Fire homegrown signing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
In terms of that pressure, the pressure now was just to perform during preseason, but the pressure to have to go to the combine, get drafted by a team, try to make the team as a college, guys coming out of college, the success rate isn't too great there.
Exactly.
So that was nice that I didn't have to worry about that.
Right. So tell me about your time at the Fire. That had to be, that moment
Yeah.
had to be incredible. It's everything you've been working towards, right?
Yeah, that was super special. A lot of just really. I mean, I had been driving to Toyota Park for like 7 years up to that moment,
right,
thinking about that,
right,
because you can't not think about it,
right.
You're practicing right next to it,
right.
So it's just a lot. It's a ton of emotions, a sense of fear I think hits you, definitely a sense of pride. I remember John Dorn, who was our fire academy director, a great mentor and friend of mine. He's the one that faxed over or sent over my contract. So I was like, it's just cool that it's coming full circle. Now I'm going to be a first teamer for the fire.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
And then the next 3 years, it was so many good moments, a lot of moments I wish went differently. But I had some pretty special moments though, which was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if you were to give 3 pieces of advice to parents out there that have kids 12, 13, 14 years old, what would you recommend to these parents as these kids are developing, looking to play in high school, looking to play in college, potentially trying to become professionals? As a professional, what would you advise some of these parents?
I already harped on it a little bit.
Right.
You gotta let the kid
Drive the bus.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's just essential.
Yeah.
And you'll know if the kid wants to do it or not.
Right.
There's a difference between someone being lazy or someone really not liking it. So that's definitely number one. Number two is I would say do whatever you can to just stay out of the coach's business.
Sure.
Which seems silly to me that even has to be addressed, but
seems like a common issue.
Yeah.
In general,
and I hope I don't end up being that guy, because that would be pretty embarrassing that I'm saying that now, and I'm sure it's a lot harder when you're a parent.
Yeah.
But I'm just so grateful that my parents, no matter what, they never intervened. No matter, even when I was 12 and 13 playing for the guy that
you didn't mess with.
That lost. And I can't imagine what it's like for them to see their kid losing confidence.
Right.
But for them to never cross that line and to only support me and not get involved with that was great, because that happens a lot, and all it does is make it worse for the kid.
Absolutely.
It just is so automatic.
Absolutely.
And the kid's friends know, the kid's friends' parents know.
Yeah, it's a messy situation.
Coaches know, and it's just, there's no good that can come from it.
Sure.
Of course, there's times where a parent will have to intervene.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell anyone to do differently.
Yeah.
But if it's something not significant, which I think everyone will know what's significant and what's not, the more you can stay away from doing that and just supporting your kid, the better. In 3, I would just say, I think what my parents always did a really good job at was they would be super honest with me.
Okay.
Maybe my mom thought I was a little bit better than I was.
As moms tend to do.
Thanks, Mom. And my dad too, but for the most part, they kept me pretty level-headed.
Gotcha.
And that's one thing I'm happy about. I don't think I ever gave off that vibe that people were like, Doody thinks he's so great.
Right.
Maybe it happened, and I don't know that.
Right.
But I think for the most part that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that came from my parents, because they weren't telling me anything that wasn't. They weren't telling me I was. They were making me feel good about myself, but to the right level,
right,
where I never got too high.
Sure.
And that happens a lot with kids.
Yeah, and keeping it practical, that helps the kid realize, like, there's work to be done. too.
Totally.
You know what I
Totally.
mean? So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of 14, 13, probably even 12-year-olds out there that think they're already about to be signed by the club.
Sure.
And soon enough, I bet some of them will be.
Sure.
But that's not the point. The point is, as a parent, you want your kid to be a reflection of what you're teaching them. I think.
Right.
And my parents always just, hey, you're out there, you're playing a team sport.
Yeah.
So you got to be a good teammate.
Yeah.
No matter how well you're doing, always be a good teammate. And just know your strengths and what you want to work on, but don't ever, it's the same for everything. If you think you're better than you are at it, then you're probably not going to end up being successful at it.
Right.
Now, there's something to be said about being super confident. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But only a few people can be that confident, that arrogant, because they're that good. The
Right.
rest of us have a limit, and I find it best when those kids realize that from their parents, because if they know that they're not anything, they know they're not the next gift to the game at age 14. That's a good thing,
Yes.
because they're going to keep working to be that,
Right.
and that's really all you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks for hanging with me today.
That was
I really
fun.
appreciate the time, man.
Sorry if I repeated myself a bit there.
It's all good.
All right,
It's all good.
right on.
All right, man. I know you got a game to catch. Thank you, sir.
Big men's league game tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank
All right,
you.
Doody. Thank you.
Thanks.